It was Monday morning, July 8th, 2002. The Southern California sun was already beating down on San Diego, promising a scorcher of a day. The gates to SeaWorld weren't open yet, the usual throngs of tourists still hours away. But behind the scenes at Shamu Stadium, the day had already begun. For Tamarie Tollison, it was a day like any other, a comforting thought, perhaps, or maybe a chilling one, considering what was to come. Tamarie wasn't just any trainer. She was a senior Orca trainer, a seasoned professional with years of experience under her belt. She knew Shamu Stadium like the back of her hand, every slippery concrete path, every echoing corner, every splash zone seat that would soon be filled with eager faces. She'd worked her way up, dedicating countless hours to understanding these magnificent, powerful creatures. For Tamarie, it wasn't just a job. It was a passion, a dedication, a life. Her relationship with the Orcas was complex. To the average visitor, they were performers, entertainers. But to Tamarie, they were individuals, each with their own distinct personality, their own quirks, their own moods. She believed in building trust, in forging genuine connections, and she genuinely cared for the whales under her charge. She thought of them almost like family. To Orcas, in particular, held a special place in her working life. Orchid and Splash. Orchid, a 14-year-old female, born right here at SeaWorld San Diego, was known for her intelligence and her quick learning abilities. She was a star performer, captivating audiences with her grace and agility. But Orchid also had a reputation, a whispered one, mind you, for being assertive, boundary testing, some might say. She was a dominant female in the Orca social structure, and that dominance sometimes extended to her interactions with trainers. Incidents had occurred in the past, minor things, a nip here, a shove there, reminders that these were wild animals, capable of immense power, no matter how well trained they seemed. Splash, on the other hand, was a male Orca, larger and more imposing than Orchid. He'd been transferred from SeaWorld San Antonio years ago, and his training history was complicated. He wasn't malicious, not inherently, but he could be unpredictable, slow to respond to commands, prone to bursts of energy that could catch even the most experienced trainer off guard. His size alone made him a force to be reckoned with. This morning, Tamarie was scheduled for a training session with Orchid and Splash. No audience today, just a routine pre-show conditioning session, focused on reinforcement, trust building, and refining their performance cues. It was an opportunity to connect with the whales, to gauge their moods, to ensure they were ready for the day's shows. The routine started like any other. Tamarie arrived early, meticulously reviewing her notes, double-checking her equipment, and coordinating with the other trainers on deck. There was a palpable sense of anticipation in the air, a blend of excitement and focused professionalism. The water shimmered under the morning sun, inviting and deceptively calm. As she approached the edge of the pool, Tamarie paused, taking a deep breath. The air smelled of chlorine and salt water, a familiar scent that both soothed and energized. She glanced at the whales, circling in the clear water, their sleek black bodies gliding effortlessly. They seemed calm, attentive, ready to work. At least, that's what she thought. Inside the back pools of Shamu Stadium, Orchid and Splash swam in wide circles, cutting through the water with effortless grace. She knew their behaviors, their signals, their quirks. It was a controlled environment, a safe routine, but routines can be deceiving. Tamarie entered the water just like she had hundreds of times before. No tension, no hesitation. She knew the risks, of course. Every orca trainer did. They were constantly reminded of the potential dangers, the sheer power of these animals, the unpredictable nature of the wild. There were safety protocols in place, emergency procedures, backup plans for every scenario. But ultimately, it came down to trust. Trust in the whales, trust in her training, trust in her own abilities. From the deck, trainers monitored the session, radios at their hips, cueboards in hand. The deck trainers constantly watched her. She smiled and began vocal cues. The massive whale orchid circled closer and Splash swam beneath the surface. She gave the signal, an orchid responded, surfacing with a familiar exhale of mist. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. The other trainers observed, but in the confined break rooms there had been muttering for some time. A little bit louder these past few months. She adjusted her position, signaling Orchid for a breach. A dramatic leap out of the water. Orchid responded instantly, powering through the water with incredible speed, her enormous body launching skyward in a breathtaking display of raw power. The splash was deafening, sending a cascade of water over the pool deck. The crowd in the stadium seating was empty, but her heart beat with anticipation. There had been incidents, trainers' injuries. There was even a time she'd been knocked down to the concrete, her ribs making an awful sound as they met the stone. No serious injuries, no press. Just a reminder of how quickly these 5,000-pound animals could change the script. Tamarie laughed, shaking the water from her hair. This was it. This was what she loved. Connecting with these incredible creatures, sharing their power and grace with the world. But today, that connection was about to be tested in ways she could never have imagined. And the trust she placed in these magnificent animals would be shattered in a single, terrifying instant. The stadium was silent, waiting for the inevitable roar of the audience. But for now, it was just her, Orchid, and Splash. And a seemingly ordinary day that was about to turn into a nightmare. As she prepared for the next cue, a sense of unease washed over her, a subtle feeling that something wasn't quite right. She couldn't put her finger on it, but the feeling lingered, a dark cloud on the horizon of her perfect morning. The sun beat down on Shamu Stadium, reflecting off the turquoise water. Tamarie stood waist-deep, her wetsuit clinging to her skin. The air smelled of chlorine and fish. Orchid, a sleek black and white powerhouse, circled expectantly. Splash, larger and more imposing, lingered just beneath the surface, a dark shadow hinting at the immense power contained within. It was a typical morning training session, a routine, or so it seemed. Tamarie raised her hand, signaling Orchid to approach. The orca responded instantly, her massive frame gliding effortlessly towards the trainer. Years of training had forged a bond, a partnership built on trust and mutual respect. Or so Tamarie believed. She offered a handful of fish, rewarding Orchid's compliance. The whale accepted the treat with a gentle nudge, her intelligent eyes locking with Tamarie's. "Good girl, Orchid," Tamarie said, her voice clear and confident. She turned her attention to Splash, offering the same signal. The male orca responded, albeit with a slightly slower, more deliberate movement. There was a subtle difference in his demeanor, a tension that Tamarie couldn't quite place, but she dismissed it. It was probably nothing, just a mood. The first few exercises went smoothly. Simple cues, basic movements. Tamarie guided the whales through their paces, reinforcing positive behavior with rewards and praise. From the deck above, Fellow trainers monitored the session, their eyes scanning the water, watching for any signs of trouble. It was a controlled environment, a carefully choreographed dance between human and animal. But control is an illusion, especially when dealing with creatures as powerful and unpredictable as killer whales. Then, everything changed. In an instant, the routine shattered. Without warning, Orchid lunged forward, not with the playful energy of a trained animal, but with a sudden, chilling aggression. Her massive jaws clamped down on Tamara's foot. A scream ripped through the air, quickly swallowed by the chlorinated water. Tamarie was yanked downwards, her body twisting violently, as Orchid's immense power pulled her beneath the surface. Panic flared. The bright sunlight above became a distant memory as the world turned a murky blue. Before Tamarie could react, Splash joined the attack. The male Orca surged upwards from below, his massive frame colliding with her body. Now, she was trapped between two of the ocean's most formidable predators, each pulling her in a different direction. The water filled her lungs. She choked, gasped, struggled to break free, but it was no use. The whales were too strong, their grip too firm. Desperation clawed at her as she flailed her arms, trying to push them away, to reach the surface, to breathe from the deck. Chaos erupted. Recall. Recall, a trainer screamed, activating the emergency signal. The high-pitched tone pierced the air, a desperate plea for the whales to release their grip. But they didn't respond. They were deaf to the commands, lost in a primal urge that overrode years of training. Tamara's vision blurred. The pressure mounted, squeezing the air from her lungs. The world narrowed to a swirling vortex of black and grey muscle. She could feel the immense power of the whales, the cold, relentless pressure of their jaws. Her body was a plaything, tossed and turned in the churning water. Her fellow trainers scrambled to find anything that might distract the whales. Noisemakers, food, anything to break their focus. But the pool had become a battleground, a desperate struggle for survival. Time stretched, each second an eternity down below. Tamarie fought to stay conscious. Her limbs burned, her lungs ached. She was running out of air, running out of time. The surface seemed miles away, a distant glimmer of hope fading with each passing moment. Then, a last-ditch effort. A senior trainer, recognizing the severity of the situation, made a bold decision. A false cue. The call for Kasatka, the matriarch Orca, a signal designed to trigger submission, to assert dominance within the pod. But Kasatka wasn't present. It was a gamble, a desperate attempt to shock the whales into compliance. The signal echoed through the water, a sound ingrained in the whale's subconscious. For a fleeting moment, something shifted. Orchid hesitated, her grip loosening slightly. Then, Splash mirrored her reaction. And just like that, Tamara's body was released. She bobbed to the surface, limp and lifeless. Her eyes were wide and unfocused, her face pale and drawn. She gasped for air, her lungs burning with the desperate need for oxygen. She coughed, sputtered, fought to regain consciousness. 30 agonizing seconds. 30 seconds that felt like an eternity. 30 seconds that separated life from death. 30 seconds where Tamarie Tollison's life hung in the balance. Beneath the surface of Shamu Stadium. Marie Tollison spent weeks in the hospital. Surgeries, physical therapy, and the gnawing reality of what had almost been. The attack left her physically scarred, yes, but the deeper wounds were invisible. The trust she once held, The connection she felt with the Orcas shattered like glass beneath the weight of the ocean. She never spoke publicly about the incident. There were no tell-all interviews, no sensationalized headlines from her side. Her silence became a deafening testament to the trauma she endured. Meanwhile, back at SeaWorld San Diego, the gears of the PR machine were already in motion. The official narrative was carefully crafted. A training incident, a minor setback. Nothing to alarm the public. Internal investigations were launched, not necessarily to uncover the truth, but to manage the fallout. The focus was on damage control, minimizing the impact on ticket sales and shareholder value. But the truth, like water, always finds a way to seep through the cracks. Whispers began to circulate among the training staff. Concerns previously dismissed, doubts previously silenced, started to bubble to the surface. Some trainers privately expressed fear and disillusionment. The idealized image of harmonious coexistence between humans and Orcas was tarnished, replaced by a chilling awareness of the inherent risks. And then, the past came calling. Reports of previous incidents involving Orchid, the primary aggressor, in the attack on Tamarie, began to surface. A near miss in 1996, when she grabbed a trainer by the ponytail and dragged them into the water. Other instances of aggressive behavior, dismissed as playful nips or training errors, were now viewed in a new, more ominous light. It became clear that Tamarie's attack wasn't an isolated incident, but rather the culmination of a pattern of unchecked aggression and a systemic failure to prioritize safety. SeaWorld, of course, denied any negligence. They maintained that all reasonable precautions were taken, that the trainers were highly skilled, and that the risks were inherent in working with such powerful animals. But the evidence suggested otherwise. Internal memos, later revealed through legal proceedings, showed that Orchid had been flagged as a high-risk animal for in-water interactions. Yet she remained a key performer in the Shamu show, day after day, putting trainers in harm's way. The long-term impact of the attack on Tamarie was profound. While she physically recovered, she never returned to working with Orcas. The career she loved, the passion that defined her, was taken away in an instant. She quietly disappeared from the SeaWorld landscape, another casualty in the relentless pursuit of profit and entertainment. But her story, though largely untold, left an indelible mark on the industry. It served as a stark reminder of the dangers inherent in keeping orcas in captivity and forcing them to perform for human entertainment. It fueled the growing debate over the ethics of marine parks and the well-being of the animals held within. And while Tamarie's experience didn't immediately trigger widespread change, it laid the groundwork for future reforms. Her story, coupled with other incidents of orca aggression, gradually chipped away at the public's perception of SeaWorld and other marine parks. The narrative of happy, well-adjusted animals performing for adoring crowds began to crumble, replaced by a growing awareness of the psychological and physical toll of captivity. Years later, when Dawn Broncho, another SeaWorld trainer, was tragically killed by an orca in 2010, the dam finally broke. The public outcry was deafening. Federal regulators launched investigations. SeaWorld was forced to implement significant changes to its safety protocols. In-water interactions with orcas were drastically restricted, and trainers were no longer allowed to perform alongside the animals during shows. While Dawn Broncho's death became the catalyst for change, Tamarie Tollison's story quietly paved the way. Her near-fatal attack served as a silent warning, a harbinger of the dangers to come. Her silence, her absence, spoke volumes about the systemic problems within the industry. And so, Tamarie's legacy lives on, not in grand pronouncements or public accolades, but in the subtle shifts in policy and public opinion that followed her attack. She became an unwitting advocate for animal welfare, a symbol of the sacrifices made in the name of entertainment. Her story, though largely forgotten by the general public, continues to resonate within the marine park industry, a haunting reminder of the price of keeping these majestic creatures confined to concrete tanks. Her experience exposed the myth of control and the illusion of safety. It revealed the inherent risks of forcing wild animals to conform to human expectations, and it ultimately contributed to a growing movement to end the exploitation of orcas and other marine mammals for entertainment. While SeaWorld has made some changes since these horrific events, many questions still linger. Is it ethical to keep these intelligent, social creatures captive, no matter how humane the conditions? Have the changes gone far enough to protect both the animals and the trainers? And what lessons can we learn from Tamarie Tollison's story to prevent future tragedies? These are questions that continue to be debated, and questions that demand our attention, because the story of Tamarie Tollison is not just a story of one woman's ordeal, but a story of our relationship with the natural world, a story of the ethical choices we make, and a story that reminds us that even in the most carefully controlled environments, the power of nature can never be fully contained.